Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today we're going to be playing with 3 different die sets and they are fully loaded. These are super cool. This is the Holiday Label Motifs, the Winter Label Motifs, and the Fall Label Motifs. So guess what? I'm going to be making 3 cards. So this is going to be a fairly long video because I'm going to show you how I create each of the 3 cards. So I'm starting off with the Fall Motifs die set, and I'm going to warn you guys, you may not want to get these things because as soon as you start die cutting, you kind of have trouble stopping. This is just too fun. So I decided to use the outside barrier on this motif. Let me show you. We've got 3 dies. We've got the outside layer, and I cut that out of, I decided I wanted to do blue pumpkins, so anyway. I cut that out of some blue cardstock and then a couple of layers of white, so I'm going to layer that up to give it a little bit of dimension. Then we've got this smaller piece, so you see it kind of layers in there, and a filigree piece. And that one I cut out of some glittery foil cardstock that someone had gifted me a while back, and I hadn't found a perfect use for it yet, and I think this turns out gorgeous. So anyway, I cut those out, and then I cut out basically all of the other fun things that are in this set. We've got the motif itself, we've got pumpkins, we've got the stem for the pumpkin, we've got leaves, we've got acorns, we've got all the fun things for a fall card, and I'm going with a blue and white theme for this, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting this all together now that I've got the dies out of the way. I think this just turned out so super cute. So for these, I'm just going to glue them together. That'll give a little bit of stability and some thickness. Now I'll add this foil yummy filigree. Oh, I love that. That is just so pretty. I was thinking about going with glitter, but then I had this kind of sitting in my scrap bin because it's not a full sheet, and thought, you know, I really like that. Next, what I'm gonna do, I've got all the pieces and I've kind of got an idea of where I want them, but I decided to use the embossing folder of the month for the month of September for this also. I think that'll give a little extra texture behind everything. So I'm going to put that one down first onto my card base, and I do need to put this down with plenty of glue. I have discovered that because I've had to reapply my glue a couple of times on a couple of other cards, because with that texture it needs to have enough surface covered to really grab it. And art glitter glue does dry clear, so we are good with that. And on this panel, instead of doing my normal 4 by 5 1/4, I cut off an extra 1/4 inch on each side to give a little bit more of a border on the outside. So this one is 3 3/4 by 5. Now I can start layering up all my fun pieces. Starting off with the motif. So there are my pumpkins, and then I also cut out a couple of the acorns. Usually I go with whatever the traditional color is for whatever my piece is that I am assembling, and this time I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it a little bit different. I felt like some blue, and so everything on this card is going to be some kind of a shade of blue. I think this is turning out really pretty. You guys will have to let me know what you think of my color choice on this one once we get all done. Okay, and then we have these little branches and some little berries that can go on top of those. And with this one, I'm going to use my jewel picker to add those little guys on. Okay, so there's one set. I'll go ahead and do the same thing with the other colors. So next I'm going to add my little pumpkins to the front of this card. And I'm using some of the foam squares that come in the card kit of the month each month to add just a little extra dimension. And this one I put the foam down at the bottom because I'm going to have it overlap the other pumpkins a little bit. Okay, so that looks pretty cute. And now I can add in my little branches and berries. So I am constantly experimenting because I've never done any kind of flower arrangement, but I think I'm getting a little bit better. And adding the little additional pieces like this does tend to kind of add a little, I don't know, a little oomph to it. Sometimes those little details just finish up the card. Okay, and I have a third one. I think I'm going to have that one come down near the bottom. Then I've got these little branches. These also came in the kit, but I've also got some other pieces. If I decide I don't have quite enough going on with this one, I've got some other pieces from some other die sets. Or you can cut out as many as you want, or you can leave them all off together. And I don't think I need quite that much stem, so I'm going to trim some of that off. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Don't think I actually need the other one, but I do want to add these little acorns on here too. And then I'm going to put some foam on the back of this one and pop it up. Okay, and then to finish everything up, I've got a sentiment that I cut out from a stamp set from last year called Charming Pumpkins. That's this one, and I'm just using the Fall Blessings, and I stamped that out in some Suede Shoes from Catherine Pooler. And of course, as I'm looking over here, I realize I had cut out a bunch of leaves, so I could, if I decide to, add some of those on. So I'm not sure if I'm completely done yet. I may add a couple of leaves too. Let me go ahead and add the sentiment first. Okay, so that's going to finish up this first card, and this one again is using the fall label motifs. I think this turned out really pretty. So next we're working with the holiday labels motif, and I've already cut everything out, and I'm gonna start just kind of putting some of the pieces together. First off, how cute is that? We've got a little lantern, and we have a little candle to go inside. So I am going to layer that up. It's actually a candle with a little flame. So for the flame, I'm going to color that with an alcohol marker real quick. And I think I'm going to use one of my GUI markers just because easy access, and it is kind of a golden orangey color. Okay, and then I'm just going to start gluing this together. I also went ahead and cut it twice so that it have a little bit of dimension. Just adding the little flame to the little flame spot on the candle, and these are just so teeny it is hard to get them on there. Oh well. Okay, so we will do that again. And now I'm going to add it to my other full piece of my candle so that I'll have a full piece there. So now we have our little candle, and then it'll go inside. Oh, that is just darling. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down, and then I can see what it's going to look like and decide, do I want to put anything behind it? I think I want this a little bit lower so I can see the full candle. Oh, that is darling. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put together a couple of poinsettias. All I'm doing is adding a little glue into the center, and then putting a second one down, offsetting it. So now we'll have 6 leaves for our poinsettia. And now our main bits are all ready to go. Now I also cut out a bunch of the greenery that comes in the set and the main motif. And this time, instead of doing it all as, you know, different layers, I decided I'm going to make a shaker. So what I did is I took the inside piece, this one, and the outer edge, and cut this out of some gold cardstock. Then I cut it out of some foam. And then I also cut out a piece of transparency. Actually, I think this is some heavyweight packaging using just this outside layer here so that it'll fit. It'll fit there, and then we'll still be able to adhere everything down to these. So these two use the outer edge, the outer one. The plastic uses the one in the middle, and then of course I've got the design out of both of those. So I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the shaker bits. So I am going to run some liquid adhesive all along these inner bits. Now I'm just going to put this down onto my foam. Awesome. So now I'm going to let this dry a little bit because we do have some little bits that we need to make sure that this is nice and dry before we put this other piece on top. Okay, so now that that is mostly dry, I'm going to go ahead and adhere on my gold piece. Okay, now I'm going to, because it's exact same match as it's a match to the foam, I can just line it up with the foam and press everything together, and we are good. Going to set that to the side for a minute to dry. So I'm going to add some shaker bits, just some confetti bits that I've got in my stash. One is these little snowflakes, and the other one is some little confetti bits. And I'm going to try to just get them put into get both of them put into all of the sections. Okay. So I think that is probably enough, so I'll go ahead and clean up what I have left. Okay, so now I'm going to be very, very, very careful with taking off this release paper. And I think what I'm going to do, actually, since I've got part of it laying down already, do the same thing that I do when I'm using double-sided adhesive. And of course, my finger stuck on it, so some of the bits did pop out. I'm going to go ahead and put this on there, lining it up with the end that does not have the adhesive showing, and just press it down onto the part that does. Press it down pretty tight, burnish it down, and then go ahead and slowly remove that release paper for the rest. Hopefully, this will make it so that everything, well, maybe not. This should make it so that I don't have any... This should make it so that it's lined up like I want it. And it should take care of those bits popping out, because, yeah, I don't want them to pop out. Okay. So that looks like it's about right. Did have a couple pieces move around. But now I can shake it, and we've got some little shaker bits all over. And I do see that up here in the bits, there are some that are kind of stuck up in the top, but you know what? I think that looks okay anyway. Because what we're going to do is we're going to have our little lamp right there. Okay, so what I'm using for my background is this panel. This is one that I did with a new foil plate. I'm going to be using that in another video, so stay tuned for that. But I do need to trim this down a little bit first because I don't want it to be quite that big. on my card base. Okay, so it is right now 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I think what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and trim it down to 3 3/4 by 5. So that is cutting off about a 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, so now I have that little gold border around the edges. And next I need to decide which direction do I want my burst to be. Actually, I think that looks good. You could have it with the center being to the top or to the bottom. It's entirely up to you. I think I like it towards the top. So I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive to the back of this and put it down on my card base. And I think I'm going to also position it a little bit towards the top. And I think that that's going to look great just going straight flat to the card. So let me go ahead and add some glue to the back of my little lantern here. And I'm going to center that flame right on the center of that burst. That looks cool. Next, I just need to add my little extra embellishments, find a sentiment, and we are all done. And I decided that I need a little bit something else. I've got a lot of green going on this, so I grabbed out my Nuvo drops. This one is Autumn Red. I'm going to add a few little, pretty much just some red berries to the front of my card here. And then I also grabbed out my white. I'm going to add a few little white berries or bits in the middle of my poinsettias. Give it a little bit of texture and dimension over here. And it looks like I've got them a little bit too big and too close together. So I should probably come back in a bit and add a couple of them back on. So I'll give that a little bit of time to dry. I'm going to also add a few other little red berries, I think. So that's going to finish up this card. I did think I was going to add a sentiment, but you know what? I think this is so pretty that adding anything more might actually take away from it. So I'm going to leave this one as that. So that is our second card done. So for the third card, I'm going to be using the Winter label Motifs, and it's got this real pretty frame and basically a pretty winter scene. So I've cut out a bunch of those bits, just like I did with the others. And this time I did use double-sided adhesive on the back. I'm using some double-sided adhesive sheets from scrapbook.com. I think that's going to work out really well. And I probably should have used it on this frame too, but that is totally fine. You'll also notice I cut one piece out of vellum because if this works, my plan is to make this one a light up card using a one light from Pear Blossom Press. So I've got two of the big frame, that's the outer side. So I've got two of those. I cut a glitter frame using the two frames together so that it'll frame our little scene. The reason I did a second one of these is I'm also going to cut across this to make a little hill, and I'm just going to do that using my scissors. Now if you've got a wave die or anything like that, like a hillside die or anything, you can definitely do this using your die. And that would probably make mine look a little better, but it is what it is. This is going to do actually a couple of things. First, it's going to give us a little place for our think I want to use, yeah, I'll use that one. It'll give us a place for all of our bits to rest, to give us a snowy hillside, but it's also going to give me a place to hide my little light. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to adhere this down to my vellum. And I think what I'm going to use for this is just some dot liner adhesive. That should hold pretty well to the vellum, and it's just lines of little dots. And I'm going to go ahead and just assemble my scene, because I know that I'll be able to put my little light behind my house and still have plenty of room underneath. I'll have plenty of room to hide that light under the snowbank. And for each of these, I did put them all on, for most of these bits, I put them on double-sided adhesive, just to make it a little quicker and easier for me to put them on there. This part is just a little window, and I'll need to poke out the little holes, which are trying to stay in the die cut. I don't want them there. Okay, I'll go ahead and add my little trees down. Okay, and I think I want this one. Actually, I think I may trim off one of the trees. I'll just go with two over at the side. And then I can put my house kind of in the center there. I think that'll be pretty. There we go. And then I want to add this little fence, because it's a fence and it's cute. Okay, so there is our little scene. And the plan is, let's go ahead and take a look. I have to test things out. You guys know that. So I've got the battery added in, and I'm going to position the light behind my little windows. And the glare kind of looks kind of bad right there, but it'll look better. I will share all of this in the end once I get everything done, and I'll turn the lights off so you can see how nice that looks. And I love the way that it kind of gives a glow behind the house as well, but we've got the main part of it coming out through those windows. That is going to be super cute. So I'm going to position the little light right behind the windows. Let's make sure it's right where I want it. It's going to be right about there. And I want right here to be the press plate. So I've put a little mark there in pencil, so I'll know where to stamp. So now I just need to grab the stamps that go along with this type of setup. So I stamped push here right over where I had that little X using a stamp from Lawn Fawn stamp set, because they've got so many of those interactive stamps, and those are what I've got. And now I'm going to go ahead and adhere my little light behind my house again. So I put the plastic back over the glue dot, so hopefully that will be good enough. And now I'm going to position that behind my little house. Okay, let's see if that's in the right place. That looks pretty good. So next I'm going to use some foam tape to pop this up a bit. And this is, I believe this is Honeybee. I believe this is from Honeybee. My friend Amanda from Pear Blossom Press highly recommends this foam and sent me some a while back. So that is exactly what I'm going to be using, because it is the same, it's basically the same height as what you need when you're using these lights. Okay, so now everything is basically popped up where I need it, except that I also need it to be around the top where my little frame is going to be. So first thing I'm going to do is add my frame to the front of my card. And I thought that this white glitter was just so pretty and perfect for this. Oh, for this little scene. Oh my goodness, that is just so pretty. Okay, so now what I need to do is flip it over and trim some of the foam because this is the right height, but now it's not the right width. So I need to trim some of this down so that I can run it around the edges of that little frame. And I'm going to do it just a little strip at a time and cut these in half. The same way that I do my 3M foam tape. So now we've got two pieces that should be the right width. Yes, looks like this is going to be perfect. I'm going to curve it around the top. So that's the main part I need to be able to do. And then I can add a couple pieces down the sides, and that should hold everything mostly where it needs to be. I can also put some behind the trees. That'll help as well. And it is, of course, easier to move this if you take the release paper off. Foam tape will curve whichever way you need it if it doesn't have that paper holding it in place. Okay, so I just have to be careful not to touch that to anything. So yeah, I know this doesn't look completely right, but you know what? That is totally fine because this part, the bottom part, is going to be hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and take off all of that release paper and go ahead and put this down onto that panel. Okay, so all of the release paper has been taken off. Yes, okay. Now I can put a little bit extra adhesive down. Okay, and then I can place that right on this background. I think I am going to trim a little bit of this excess off down here because it looks like it's peeking out, which means I didn't have it completely positioned correctly, but you know what? That is totally fine. As long as I don't mess around with where the foam is, I am fine. So now you should be able to see. Oh, it's still too bright. Okay, I will definitely be doing another picture. I will definitely be doing pictures with it lighting up after it being in the dark. So that is going to be totally cool. Okay, so next I think I'm going to start putting everything together onto a card base and then adding a few little extras to the front. So first things first, I'm going to add my embossed panel, and this was embossed with the Stargazer embossing folder from Spellbinders. Just adding a little bit of interest to the background. And I'm leaving it all white on white because I didn't really want to take away from that light up card scene because I think that is just too pretty. Okay. And next I can adhere this one down. And I think I do want this one to be pretty much centered. Oh, I love this. That is too pretty. So the stamp that I'm using for my sentiment is from the Vintage Holidays. This was a stamp set from last year. It's probably available on the website. I will again list everything down below. So I put that in some blue suede, or suede shoes rather, ink, and now I'm going to add some little snowflakes and branches to kind of pull everything together because I think those are really pretty. Okay, I am going to leave it at that. To be honest, it was a little hard to figure out what to add. So that is going to finish up this card. As promised, here it is in the dark. Now, it is still a little bright there, but I think this turned out super, super cute. So here are my cards. This one is using the fall motifs. I did it all in blue just because it's cute. And then this one is using the holiday label. And then we've got the winter label motif. So these all turned out super, super cute. Be sure to check out this playlist to see some more videos where I'm using Spellbinders products. And you guys have a wonderful day.